Today we'll be talking about the rhetoric of Atticus's closing argument. The defendant is not guilty, but somebody in this courtroom is. By the end of class today, I would like you to be able to answer, what is rhetoric? What are the three kinds of rhetoric? And what language does Atticus use that fits under logos and pathos rhetoric? You will also be able to analyze the closing argument for logos and pathos rhetoric. Create ethos, logos, and pathos rhetoric for the items left in the not. Rhetoric is the art of persuasively speaking. What words do you use to persuade? What techniques do you use? Now we come to the first of our rhetoric types, which is ethos, credibility. This is when you try to convince someone of your beliefs by giving an impression by someone people trust. We tend to believe people whom we respect. For example, reading often is important. As the famous author Mark Twain said, the man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Can you think of other ethos examples in our world today? For example, think of the advertisers for toothpaste. 9 out of 10 dentists agree Crest is the best. What examples can you think of? And now we have our second example of rhetoric, which is logos. This means convincing someone of something through using logic or reason. This kind of argument will use the facts. More than 100% of peer-reviewed studies have been conducted over the past decade, and none of them suggest that this is an effective treatment for hair loss. History has shown time and time again that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Private demand for the product has tapered off for the past 3 years, and this year's sales figures are an all-time low. It's time to research other options. And finally, in 25 years of driving the same route, I haven't seen a single deer. All those seem to be using the facts. Can you think of an example in today's world that uses logos to persuade? How about the argument that every glass of Florida orange juice contains 75% of your daily vitamin C? What other examples can you think of? And finally, we come to our last example of rhetoric called pathos. This is when we use our language to appeal to our emotions or our feelings. Ooh la la. Here's our first example. Where would we be without this tradition? Ever since our forefathers landed at Plymouth Rock, we've celebrated Thanksgiving without fail, making more than cherished recipes. Here's one you don't want to have your family hear. Don't be the last person on the block to have their lawn treated. You don't want to be the laughingstock of your community. Here's another. You should consider another route. I heard that street is far more dangerous and ominous at night than during the daytime. And lastly, you'll make the right decision because you have something that not many people do. You have heart. Can you think of examples in today's world? What about seeing a commercial where people are drinking Pepsi and everyone has a smile on their face? Or what about the images of a starving child that grabs your heart? Any other examples? Okay, now that you've heard of ethos, logos, and pathos, let's take a look at these three images here. Can you tell me which one would be logos, which one would be pathos, and which one would be ethos? Now that you've done a great job with ethos, logos, and pathos, let's take a look at Atticus Finch's closing argument in the case of Tom Robinson. What you'll be doing is taking a look at the closing argument and looking for language that would have ethos, logos, or pathos rhetoric in it. What you'll be asked to do is to take a highlighter and highlight the language that you see that uses ethos, logos, or pathos. Now you'll notice in my instructions that I'm only asking you for pathos and logos. At the end of this closing argument, I'll be asking you to think of other times where ethos is used for Atticus Finch. Keep that in mind, and then we'll talk. I know you'll do a great job.